Today we're going to fix this loose shifter with a hammer. Alright, you can see the shifter's really loose. This was causing a lot of problems with starting. Just the weight of the shifter would pull down and keep the car from being able to start and park. It also allowed the linkage to slop around a little bit under the car. Wasn't really an issue because of the detents of the transmission. But it took a little bit to figure it out. I messed a lot with the bushings and stuff that were at the base of the column on the other side of the firewall to see if I could get it tightened up, only to realize that it was this pin that was loose inside the housing of the column there. So basically that pin is pressed into the shift lever and then pivots inside the column housing. That wears away the column housing and eventually you get slop. The shift lever notches into the detent plate that's inside the column and kind of levers the column collar to that detent plate and allows it to move. So you can hold it up to start, but then when you let it go, the weight of it pulls it down and pulls it out of the start position. I started by drilling, and basically what I'm going to do here is install bushings because it's going to need to continue to wear there, but I don't want it to continue to wear the column collar. So by installing bushings, I can get the bushings to wear, and if this happens again, then I just replace the bushings. So they're 3/16 to 1/4 inch bushings. They're really thin wall, just some bronze things that I managed to find at the hardware store. And drilled out very carefully because I can always remove more material, but I want a very tight press fit because I don't want the bushing to rotate in the column collar. Because then it's going to continue to cause it to wear, and if it wears out again, I'm going to have a bigger issue. So I want them to be very tight. I thought about using Loctite. In the end, I didn't need to because I felt the press fit was tight enough, and the pin did pivot inside of them. So I'm just working it here until I can get it to just barely fit through, and then I'm going to install it from the inside. Didn't want to drop it down, so went and got a pair of pliers here to hold it, so I can line it up with my roll pin punch, and that's exactly 3/16. So it was a very good gauge for getting everything properly installed and aligned. Just go through a couple different iterations here. Now the bushing has a little bit of a flange to it, so I had to get that recessed. Now in retrospect, I could have gotten like a deburring tool, but I used this screw and cut some grooves into the back side of the head to try and get the whole thing to kind of work like a machining device to cut out the back side of that. Didn't work really great at first with that knurled star washer on there, so I think I ended up taking the star washer off and just using a roughened up screw to help take out the back side of that for the flange to sit in there. Trying it again a couple times, get it to pop down in there, but I have to test fit the shift lever actually working to go into the collar itself. I wanted a really tight fit, but I didn't want it to bind up, because if it's binding up, then that means it's not engaging the shift detent on the column and could change gears inadvertently. So I want it to really be able to engage there properly. A little more grinding out on the back side. This took me a while. It was an experiment. I really didn't know what to do. Here's when I really know it's going to work. I get the shift lever installed, get the pin into it, and I'm able to start the car with it up in park. It had gotten to the point it was so bad, it wouldn't start at all. It would just fall right down. I can still pull it down and it won't start. That's because the other bushing is not installed and the whole thing can still move a little bit. But I'm going to go through, I'm going to make sure that it moves freely, it hits all the detents like it should, and continue with the top bushing installation. So there you can see how I've got that flush down inside of there. It really fit perfect. It was just the right depth for the collar thickness. And then I go ahead and install the top one, get the pin put in place. Perfectly solid right on the mark. Here, everything works great. I'm just wiggling back and forth inside of the detent just to see how tight it is, because it was affecting everything shifting wise. So go back up to park. We're going to give it a start, make sure it works, pulling down on it. It does. Pop it down into reverse. This is where there was a lot of problem too, because you'd end up missing reverse and you'd have to chase it. So it's lining up perfectly right there. Go back into park, back into reverse, down into neutral. Turn it off, should restart, and it's as good as new.